has given medical marijuana users a last-minute reprieve. New rules were scheduled to take effect April 1st that would force those with medical marijuana prescriptions to stop growing their own marijuana and start buying instead from licensed growers. Friday morning, the judge granted an injunction allowing them to continue to grow their own. And on the phone with us this morning is Debbie Stultz-Giffin. She is with Maritimers Unite for medical marijuana. Debbie, good morning to you.
Good morning, Rick.
How are things down in the South? Were you in the Valley or the South Shore?
The Valley, actually, in Bridgetown.
How are things in the Valley this morning?
Well, in my house, we're breathing a little bit easier this morning, Rick.
Yeah, there was some concern that you and others were expressing about this change in rules that come the 1st of April, you would be required to buy your medical marijuana from a licensed grower. Now this judge in Vancouver has given you a bit of a reprieve. What's this all about?
Well, actually, Rick, the reprieve has been granted to patients who have been enrolled in Health Canada's Medical Marijuana Access Regulation Program, so that we can continue to grow our own medicine or have someone produce it for us. And with no worries from Health Canada until the constitutionality of their mean-spirited intentions are more closely examined under the constitutionality lens in the federal court.
Yeah, I'm reading here that on Friday morning the judge granted an injunction that allows those who have a personal production license, like yourself, to grow medical marijuana to continue for now, pending the outcome of a trial to be held at a later date. What's this trial about?
Well, the trial is what I alluded to about looking at what Health Canada intends to do under the constitutionality lens. It's our feeling that it's not constitutional because patients certainly couldn't afford the exorbitant, overinflated prices that the licensed producers were set to impose on everyone. So it was leaving patients in a position where many of us felt like we were being forced to choose between our freedom and our health, basically, which is in direct violation of Section 7 of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
So now you'll be able, at least temporarily anyway, pending the outcome of this trial, you'll be able to, again, continue to grow your own product.
Well, and speculation is that could be for at least 2 more years, and those patients who have been grandfathered into the program don't have to see their physician. They don't have to reapply to Health Canada because Health Canada aren't accepting renewals. The current pink slip that every patient now holds, hang on to. Keep it on your wall. You're allowed to continue to grow the same number of plants, keep the same amount of cannabis in storage. The only difference is if you have an exemption based on more than 5 grams a day, you're only allowed to carry 150 grams supply when you leave your home. So if you're going on a vacation, an extended vacation, and your requirement is more than 5 grams a day, it leaves you at a disadvantage. I've also been hearing from patients who, because of the privacy breach, would like to move their gardens so that they can feel certainly more personally secure in what they're doing and feel their medication supply will be secured. Again, Health Canada aren't accepting applications for change. So, how will it affect those people as far as being able to move their gardens? And then there are, unfortunately, patients who have designated growers that have long since pulled the plug on their indoor gardens, sold their equipment, and in some cases sold the medication overages to some of these licensed producers. I guess a new regulation that Health Canada threw in the MMPR at the last minute that designated growers could do that, and some of them took advantage of that opportunity, and then there are these patients left out on a limb who have no one who can assist them with their medication provision at a reasonable amount. And
that's the focus of this court challenge that he's arguing that the new rules create, in his words, an intractable dilemma for patients, that many will not be able to afford the medicine at the prices under the program, that they're being placed in a position where they have to choose between their liberty and their health. And this is words again from Abbotsford to BC lawyer John Conroy, who is challenging this whole thing. But in their statement of defense, the federal government points out a couple of matters. I'd like to hear your reaction to this. They say that grow-ops in houses, and we'll call it a grow-op for sake of another term, that grow-ops in houses leads to issues like fire hazards and mold, and put people at a risk of home invasions. In fact, we talked to a city councilor last week, Debbie, who said that some people in her district fear for their lives because of the people who are growing their own medical marijuana. What do you say to that?
Well, I can't hugely comment on the counselor's concerns because I don't know the individual situations involved. But certainly if people are in a position where they fear for their lives, I'm left to wonder why the RCMP haven't been involved for potential investigation, because they certainly would have that role to play.
Well, she says that there are people who have licenses for medical marijuana who are selling their product on the streets as well.
Well, certainly, I think we've talked about this before, Rick. Any program is certainly open to abuse, but however, the amount of abuse with the medical marijuana program that Health Canada have run now for 12 and a half years, according to the RCMP statistics, and this is only an allegation yet to be proven, 1.4% of the patients enrolled in the program have been said to abuse it.
Just that small percentage.
It's certainly a very, very small slice of the pie, and you look at any other governmental system, I mean, look at our senators, for instance. How many of them have abused the privilege of that they've been giving as being a senator?
Yeah.
So anybody is capable of abusing any system that's put in place. I can't begin to deny that, but certainly the allegations and the facts, not facts, but the figures that Health Canada and the RCMP throw around tend to be a little bit bogus when you blow the dust off the surface. The mold in our homes, I seriously doubt that there's an increase in mold in our homes because we're growing cannabis plants as opposed to cactuses, ferns, tomato plants. And what patient is going to willingly create a situation in their home that knowingly producing mold? There are ways around this by proper ventilation systems if anyone went to a local hydro store and were to ask. The fire situation is basically a moot point. It's Reader's Digest 2 years ago provided a list of 10 top reasons why there were fires in Canada. A grow-op or a home medical garden, as patients prefer to call it, isn't listed as one of them. Smoking cigarettes and deep-fat fryers are right up there, but certainly a home medical cannabis garden isn't one of them. And again, as patients, we're going to take precautions to have the proper wiring in place and all of those sorts of things.
So bottom line is that because of this federal court ruling in Vancouver, that all Canadians who had medical marijuana prescriptions will be able to continue to grow their own product while this thing winds its way through the courts, as this lawyer challenges the federal government's new rules that I also understand would have required you to destroy your plants by April 1st and send Health Canada a notice by April 30th saying that you've actually stopped growing and destroyed all of your plants. And that's all now put on hold, I guess.
Well, it certainly would have to be all put on hold, and the final stake, if you'd have it driven in the heart of most patients across this country, was the ultimate threat to involve the RCMP if we had notified Health Canada of the disposal of our medication.
Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly a little bit over the top in the estimation of most patients and most of the general public that I've talked to as well about this issue.
Debbie Stultz-Giffin, I thank you for your time here this morning, as always.
Thanks, Rick.
Have a good one.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Debbie Stultz-Giffin, and she's with Maritimers Unite for medical marijuana. And yeah, the second court decision on Friday of last week that went against the Harper government. This federal court judge in Vancouver that's granted a last-minute reprieve for those medical marijuana users who say they have to be able to grow their own pot at home. It's again, a cost situation. And as well, the Supreme Court of Canada's decision that rejected the Prime Minister's Quebec replacement to the Supreme Court of Canada, saying that he was not qualified to sit as a Supreme Court justice. So a couple of big court decisions on Friday of last week that went against the Conservative government of Stephen Harper.